Iowa State University Extension and Outreach puts the university's research to work throughout the state. We work with farmers to conserve our land. We inspire youth to be leaders through science and technology. We educate families on making healthy choices. We are there when a disaster strikes. And we help businesses improve their bottom line. We're committed to Iowans and to Iowa's future. We're Iowa State University Extension and Outreach.
Welcome back to our Art of Gardening preview show for Art of Gardening 2019. Today we're going to be talking to Nichole Sorgenfrey from United Way about donation gardening. We're going to be previewing some of the other sessions for Art of Gardening this year and talking about all the great things that you can sign up for. And just a reminder, Art of Gardening is on March 9th, 2019 at Muscatine Community College. And we're really excited about the day. It's a one-day symposium that's organized by the Muscatine County Master Gardeners and Muscatine Community College, and they bring you a day full of workshops and events. You can see there on the screen. It's from 8:30 to 3:30 in the afternoon. There are 4 different sessions that you get to pick workshops, and there's 6, 7, 8 different options in each of those sessions. If you're interested in finding out more, you can visit the eicc.edu and search for Art of Gardening, and there you can see there's registration online. There is a $45 fee, but that includes your 4 workshops and lunch, which is catered by a guy in a grill. Yum. And there's all kinds of options to pick from with the different sessions. You can see on there blueberries, strawberries, oh my, the annual and perennials for 2019. And if you scroll down just a tiny bit, you will see our donation gardening. Right there, donation gardening is going to be one of the topics that we're going to spend the most time talking about today. But before we get started, we're going to talk a little bit about what is Iowa State University Extension and Outreach? That is the question that I get. Even though we have been in Muscatine since 1913, I think a lot of our community is not aware. So Iowa State University Extension Outreach is a extension of Iowa State University. Because we are part of the land-grant university system, every county has an extension office, and we are here to provide resources, research, partnerships that strengthen Iowa. So you can see our goal is a strong Iowa. We have, actually it says 99 county campus, but there's actually 100 county extension offices in case that's ever on a trivia thing for you, because Pottawatomie County gets 2. But we deliver programs in the 4 areas listed here: agriculture and natural resources, human sciences, 4-H youth development, and community and economic development. Master Gardeners is a part of our ag and natural resources. So you can connect with us here at Iowa State University Extension and Outreach Muscatine County. You can visit our website. You can like us on Facebook. Just search Muscatine Extension. Or you can sign up and get our e-newsletter delivered to your inbox once a month. You can email me at the email listed on the screen, or you can give us a call at 563-263-5701. And we encourage you, connect with us. So we're going to get started today with our guest, Nichole Sorgenfrey. How you doing, Nichole?
Good. How are you?
Good. On this blustery day, I want to think spring. So we're going to think about Art of Gardening, because that's what we need to do today. So Nichole and I are going to be doing a workshop at Art of Gardening all about donation gardening.
Correct.
So to get us started, we're going to talk a little bit about why donation gardening is important. So Nichole, why do we donation garden? What does it do? What thing does it address in Muscatine County?
So it addresses some of our food insecurity issues. So we donation garden so that you can grow or help with a bigger donation garden to donate fresh vegetables and fruits to your local pantry. And then we have fresh fruits and vegetables accessible to those who are in need.
Okay. And so is food insecurity a problem in Muscatine County?
It currently is. We have 9% of our population in Muscatine County that is food insecure. Now, food insecure means those folks who don't know where their next meal is coming from. So there is a difference, because we could have some folks that are, poverty driven, but they're able to provide for themselves. They plan well and they know where to get their next meal at. But we have 9% of our community, our county, that is food insecure.
And so those could be people that maybe they've had something like a family emergency or things, medical experiences, something that has kind of put them down and out, and they were caught unaware, and all of a sudden they need some help and some resources, right?
Yeah, correct. And what's the sad part about it is 15.6% of our children 18 and under are food insecure. So that is a huge thing. And we talk a lot at United Way about ATLAS, about figuring out that gap in between poverty and middle class. So the statistics from Iowa State Extension that we received, 5.9% of those children are falling in that gap. They're food insecure, where they don't know where their next meal's coming from, but yet they can't sign up for food programs through the government.
So they can't qualify for SNAP, which used to be called food stamps, but is now called SNAP, and other services, but they still don't have enough resources.
So they're not getting free and reduced meals from the school district, so they're not guaranteed a breakfast and lunch through the school district on a school day. So that's really sad.
Yes, most definitely. And we know that having access to fresh fruits and vegetables is an important part of a healthy diet, and just having enough food, that kids are better learners, they're going to be more on target with their studies if they don't have an empty stomach.
Exactly. And they're going to be healthier.
Yeah.
I mean, less.
We all need to eat more fruits and vegetables, don't we?
Right, but I mean, if you are food insecure, you are more likely to get an illness, and then you're missing more school on top of that. I mean, it's just a sad road to go down.
So it can be a root cause of a lot of other things that we're talking about and trying to address in our community. Right. Okay. So we're going to talk about some ways people can get involved and help and increase the access to fresh fruits and vegetables for people who need it in our community.
Correct. Well, some of the ways that they can help in general with our food insecurity would be to help with donation garden. Come to Chris and I's class at
Art of Gardening,
and figure out how you can plant an extra row or do anything that we're going to talk about. But there's also a few other places that you can actually help with. You can help serve a meal with either the shelter, or you can help with a local church that are feeding those who are home insecurity.
Yeah, let's talk about this donation gardening real quick first, since we have this up on our screen. And I think this stat that's on here, this 1 in 8 Iowans is food insecure. So, we're not talking about people you don't know. If you're in a place that has more than 8 people, it is likely that at least one of those folks are needing some health and help to access food. So that's important. So this is a publication that we've put out, and if you scroll down a little bit, what this talks about is food safety in donation gardening, and also what the items are that pantries are looking for. So you can see here that it has some successful donation gardening, and donation gardening can kind of go down one or two routes. You mentioned plant an extra row. If you are already gardening, just think about maybe an extra tomato plant, or some extra peppers, some sweet corn, or try your hand at some onions or cabbage. It doesn't have to be this big elaborate thing, but maybe just adding a couple of plants to your garden, and that could be in container gardens on your balcony, or if you have a nice big garden in your backyard. And then we have listed here 5 of our pantries in Muscatine County, which is not an exhaustive list, we know, but our main pantries. And you just need to kind of contact that pantry and figure out when is the best time. So the Muscatine Community Food Pantry that recently moved into the Muscatine Center for Social Action, MCSA, they're kind of redoing their hours. So we're waiting to find out what their hours are going to be coming up, right, Nichole?
Correct.
Yeah, we'll get there.
It'll be Tuesday and Thursday for sure. They're just trying to fluctuate the timing.
Because they want to make sure that they're available for families, people who are still working, and kind of be more available. So donation gardening can be planting that extra row, adding a couple plants, or it can be working with your church and planting a whole garden, or if you have space in your yard to plant a whole garden, and working with friends or other people to do more than just that plant of extra row. But either can be really helpful to our local pantries.
So we've had a couple of churches come forward and done a donation garden, and it's a great social aspect for them because they're gathering together, they're getting to know other folks. We will send them volunteers to help, but they've had some real success.
Yeah, and it's mission work. Yes. For a lot of churches, and feeding those in need in their community. And you were mentioning some of the ways United Way helps with that. And I think Day of Caring, you talked about, is one of those places where if a church does want to do a donation garden, then they can call United Way and get some volunteers to help with that initiative. So what is Day of Caring?
So Day of Caring is a day where we pair folks up with a volunteer opportunity. So in the past, we've had some of our donation gardens come forward and ask for extra volunteers to either help plant or help harvest or even help just weed. So in the spring,
they always need help with weeding.
So in the spring, we will start with our school garden. So we'll ask for volunteers to work with the kids, just trying to make sure that we don't lose any fingers. You know, just
a little supervision.
Cleaning off the garden and stirring up the dirt and putting some manure on it. And then in the summertime, we do a Day of Caring with interns where we will help weed gardens, and then the fall we clean off the gardens.
Okay, so Day of Caring is one way, and what are some other ways that people can get involved with through United Way that affect food insecurity?
So with United Way, we also run the food rescue program here in Muscatine. So you can become a driver for that program. We operate 6 days a week. It takes about an hour. So
what does food rescue mean?
So food rescue is where we are taking food that is being thrown away from a grocery store or a restaurant and putting it into the hands of those who are in need.
Okay.
So we're able to do that underneath the Good Samaritan Act, which is for folks who are below the poverty line. So we operate with Hy-Vee, Main Street, Fairway, Come and Go, Pizza Hut, Little Caesars, and KFC currently. So
wow.
We're always growing.
Yeah.
So they the restaurants, they'll freeze their food, and then we take it to places that are serving a meal.
Okay, so it goes to the meal sites that are
right.
available.
So we have Jesus Mission, MCSA, and Salvation Army all serve meals.
Okay.
So those places utilize that. The rest of the stuff from like Hy-Vee and Hy-Vee Main Street is usually bread, sweets, slightly damaged cans, or a case of water that opened up. We get cat litter that's been opened up on accident, just things like that we take to the food pantries.
So for the people who aren't interested in gardening, the food rescue program is a great way to get involved and support food insecurity efforts in Muscatine County.
Correct.
If you don't want to garden.
So you can also help with like the summer lunch program or any of the other food programs that we have in our community if you don't want to garden.
And tell us a little bit more about summer lunch. How can somebody get involved in that?
So summer lunch is volunteering from middle of June to like middle of August, and it's 1 hour a day, usually from like 11 to 12, depending on
11:30, 12:30, depending on the site, right?
on the site. And then we also serve breakfast, and it's all 100% volunteer driven.
Okay. So there's lots of great ways to get involved, and whether you want to garden or not. But let's talk, we're going to move back to gardening because we are talking about Art of Gardening and the workshop that Nichole and I are going to be doing. So let's say we want to get started in gardening, but people are a little nervous or they haven't really tried their thumb at gardening before. So maybe we can just kind of talk through the steps of if somebody wanted to start a garden. We just showed a slide a few minutes ago about the Extension Store, and the Extension Store is a place where Iowa State University Extension Outreach has all kinds of publications on how to do things. And one of the publications that I printed off to talk about today, there is so here's the store right there. So if you go to store.extension.iastate.edu, there are thousands, no joke, thousands of publications on there in all the areas listed. So you're going to find them not only in ag and natural resources and yard and gardening kind of things, but if you want some information about budgeting, if you want information about parenting or maybe caregiving for a parent or a spouse as they age, there's some great ones on there if you want to actually start your own home business. There's some tips and tools on there about that too. Nutrition information. Lots of things at the store. But one of the publications you can find is Small Plot Garden Vegetable Gardening. And the idea is, so if you want to get started but you don't know how, there are these great publications that kind of take you through that process. They talk about site selection and preparation. They talk about planning and space-saving techniques. Like one of the things one of our donation gardens did this last year is they got a cucumber trellis.
Yes.
And that they really enjoyed. And so here's an example of that publication down there, that's Small Plot Vegetable Gardening. So, trellises, succession planting, they talk about on here, using that vertical space, which the trellises do. Interplanting, I think a lot of people feel like you have to have your rows of tomato and your rows of, beets and corn and things like that. So I know you are a gardener. How do you have your specific rows of certain things, or do you do the interplanting?
So mine is, I have plots. So
Okay.
all my tomatoes are in one plot, and just because it just works better.
Yeah. Well, and you have space.
Yeah.
Right. So this is one of those things that helps with the small plot gardening. So you can go onto the extension store and get some resources of how to get started with your garden. As we said before, add a couple tomatoes. We're going to actually be featuring a webcast on Tuesday, February 19th, which will be past when this airs, but on limited space gardening, and it's going to have 12 different ways to create container gardens.
Oh, that's always fun.
Yeah, and it's a neat way that it doesn't have to be a big thing. If you have a pot and you can plant a tomato plant, that's a great way to get started in gardening. The other thing that we have on the store that I think is a great resource, I'm going to do this, but you guys have it, is the top 13 vegetables to donate to food pantries. And this is a really great tool that was created with the Iowa food banks. And they really talked about not only what are food pantries looking for, because it's important to make sure that you're meeting the needs of the food pantry too. You're not giving them something they already have way too much of, or you're giving them something that their recipients don't know what to do with.
Exactly.
It's great to get more the recognizable vegetables and things that can hold up well, don't need a lot of extra care or refrigeration and things like that. So there are 13 veggies listed here. You see some of them on your screen, and then there's a few more. There's broccoli, cabbage, sweet potatoes. I love sweet potatoes. Carrots, beans, added to this list. There they are. I love these pretty pictures and how crisp they are. And what's neat about this document is that it goes over the overview of the vegetable, the days to maturity, so you can plan your garden, your harvesting tips, and your cleaning. So the other big, really important piece of donation gardening is food safety.
Correct.
We want to make sure that we're not taking produce to a food pantry that could make somebody sick. And so that last column there that talks about what to do. So for example, with zucchini, you're just supposed to gently wash away the dirt. You don't have to necessarily scrub them or anything like that. Same thing with the squash. Just wash away any dirt, rub away any dirt. There's different things. And it's important to make sure you tell people that when they get their produce, they should always wash their produce. But there's some other really easy food safety tips. What are some food safety tips that we can have in our gardens to keep people safe when we're harvesting?
So never let your chickens roam your garden.
Yes. Or any other animals for that.
Yeah, and they really talk about not using any kind of dog poop as your manure, so that's always a really interesting one. But the chickens roaming your garden, that's kind of a smart one. Now, at the end of the season, if you want to do that, that's fine, and then everything will freeze over for next year. But that's one of the big ones I first learned. I mean, having chickens and a garden. Yeah,
keeping pets and wild animals out of your garden plot, I think, is a really important one. One of the ones that I was interested about was using municipal drinking water, that they talked about that it's important to use drinking water to water, so not get it from a stream or something like that, because you don't know what is in that other body of water that you're putting onto your plants. Yeah, I was like, okay, exactly. That's what I was like, okay.
Right, and then when you're harvesting your vegetables, if you have any that have any bruises or cuts in them, make sure you're discarding them. Hopefully you're composting, and those can go into that as well.
Yeah, and I think it's important that sometimes when we make donations, we think about, other people would want this, but if you don't want to eat it, don't donate it, because you should have that same kind of rule of thumb.
Right, and then to make sure that all your utensils that you're using in the garden, that you're keeping them clean. It's also going to just make sure that the life of those utensils are going to last longer.
Yep.
At the end of the season, I always, sand mine down and oil them.
Do you really?
My grandfather taught me that.
Impressive.
But yeah, it's just so that you make sure that you can keep your tools for a longer period of time, especially your pruning shears, and make sure they're clean, because you don't want to contaminate anything.
Yeah, and we actually, for our donation gardens that we have through Master Gardeners, we also got these things called tub trugs, and they're washable food grade plastics that we can wash out. So we put all the produce in there, take them to the food pantry, and then pick up a new one. And so being able to make sure your container is washable.
Yes.
And also you want to transport it to the food pantry in a covered vehicle is another one of the tips from Iowa State that I was like, it makes sense though, because you just don't know what's blowing around out there, and we want to make sure things are protected.
It sounds so simple, but yet we're just, trying to make sure that no one gets sick.
Exactly. And then the number one thing that is most important is to make sure you wash your hands before you harvest and after you harvest, and between like cleaning vegetables and things like that. And just like in any food safety, washing your hands is one way to protect people and is keeping the food safe that we're donating.
Protects you as well.
Yes, exactly. So the food safety and donation gardening is really important, but we're going to dive more into that when we are at our Art of Gardening presentation. And we'll talk more about vegetables and our local pantries, and we're also going to highlight some of our local donation gardens. Muscatine County has, for 4 years in a row, received funding. I think there was a technical. We're back. Has received funding for donation gardening in Muscatine County. So we're excited. We just got word today that we got the 4th year of funding. Woohoo!
And we have a new garden this year with the FFA.
Yep, we're going to be adding into our granting, I guess. That the garden has been there. It existed, but we're adding it to our grant. And we're able to get, it's actually SNAP Ed funding. So again, that what used to be called food stamps, so people know, is now called SNAP. And there's educational funds that come from the federal government that are being funneled to donation gardening to get more fresh fruits and produce accessible to low-resource Iowans. And what I think is really cool is Iowa started this 4 years ago, and now there are 7 states that are doing these mini grants where master gardeners are being utilized.
Iowa's always a great leader, aren't they?
And they are, yes. And we're excited because last year, I'm going to forget the exact number, we had over 5,000 pounds of produce that were donated to local pantries through these efforts. So we'll do a little spotlight at our session. We'll show some of our different gardens and some of the techniques that they're doing to make sure that volunteers aren't getting burnt out too, because I think that's another piece of this, is making sure the volunteers have their resources that they need. And Day of Caring is one of those great resources that helps out. And then there's some other tips and tools that folks have. I feel like, I was like, what did I want to talk about? My Art of Gardening brochure is way down there. Can we bring up the Art of Gardening registration again so we can look at some of the other classes? If you can sign up for Nichole's and I's. That's in the number 1.
That would be your first one to sign up for.
Number 1. But then you still have 3 other sessions, so you can see. This is session 1, and here, let's go down a little bit to session 2. There we go.
So you can sign up for ours and then figure out, like, if you want to learn how to do tomatoes and then other things that would go with the donation.
And that first one, the dealing with bad soil, I think that's something that some people don't know what to do with when they have a yard that maybe there's a lot of clay, or if you're towards the south end of Muscatine and you have a lot of sand. So that would be a great one too for it. And let's keep going down a little bit. What do we got? So there's lunch. Lunch is important. And opposite lunch, because we have 2 lunch sessions, is Stump the Experts, where there will be a panel and you get to ask questions and submit questions. So that's always fun. Okay, let's see what's after Stump. So, square foot gardening is a great one too.
There you go.
Yeah, so that would be a great one if you want to get started with adding an extra row or donation gardening. Next week we're going to have Rachel Horner-Brackett on. That's going to be talking about the plants that have changed history. And I think that'll be a really interesting session.
That will be.
Yeah, and I think even this climate change in your garden,
that
sounds really interesting. Yeah, and let's see, what's in session 4 for us? Let's see. I think this Let Me Entertain You about, look at inexpensive ways to wow your garden. I think that's really cool. But if you wanted to do trough gardening, here's your tomato tech. And Patrick O'Malley, who is the horticulture specialist with Iowa State University Extension and Outreach that covers this part of the state, will be coming over from Johnson County and leading the tomato tech one. Excited about that. And then Nancy Dew is going to be doing a plant-based cooking demo, so that'll be fun too. So Art of Gardening isn't just about vegetable gardening. It's not just about flowers. As you can see, there's planting landscape trees and promoting diversity. So it's also about landscaping and other things that you can do. Even this favorite gardens, this last one here, it's going to be kind of a travel log of different gardens, both foreign and domestic. So there's all kinds of sessions to sign up for that are beyond just what I think a lot of people think of in gardening is vegetables and flowers.
Yes.
So again, Art of Gardening is March 9th. You can sign up by visiting eicc.edu and search for Art of Gardening. It's a one-day symposium that is a partnership between Muscatine Community College Continuing Education and the Muscatine County Master Gardeners. And you know, I should know, but I don't know how many years Art of Gardening has been going on. I'll have to ask that question, but it's been going on for a long time. For $45, you get 4 workshops, you get lunch, you get to stump the experts, and then we also have vendors that will be between classes. There's different garden vendors, and it's a really fun day. I encourage you to check it out. So Nichole, is there anything that you want to say? Oh yes, we want to highlight. Thank you. Look at her; she's keeping me on track. Nichole and I are also with the Muscatine Community Garden Association and the Muscatine Master Gardeners. We're going to be offering a growing season kickoff on March 30th at the Environmental Learning Center from 9 to 11. What will we find there, Nichole?
So we'll have a couple presentations. It's all free, and we will hopefully have quite a few vendors around the room that will be talking just strictly about gardening and soil and conservation. So it will be a great time from 9 to 11. We're having the Master Gardeners in charge of the presentations, and we're doing tomatoes.
Tomatoes, and then also a soil/composting one.
Ooh, I love composting. I really think everyone in the world should do composting.
I know. I want you to compost for me. I want to be able to give you a bucket.
She's been saying this for years. After I get my last child to college, maybe I can do that.
You can compost for me. Yeah, and so, but the growing season kickoff will have a little bit of a focus on donation gardening. We'll have 2 programs, like you said, if you want to learn a little bit. And then we've invited organizations that are around the community that are involved in either conservation or gardening, those kind of things. So then people can also find out if they want to get involved and they want to volunteer. It'd be a great day to learn more opportunities.
And we'll also have Deb Brockhouse there with our Solomon Garden. So if you're interested in doing a community garden space because you don't have space, talk with her and see if her husband will till up some more land.
So yes, so the Brockhouses have offered up space on their property for people who don't have land of their own. And they have a good set of gardeners out there that really take care of some great gardens. And so that's a big asset into our community for folks to take advantage of. And Mulford Church also has community garden space for people who are looking for that. Yeah.
And then in the fall, we'll hopefully have a garden party to wrap up the season.
Yes.
And that sounds like a great garden season. Now if only spring can come.
Yes, I know. We need to get that here. So those are some of the things that we have coming up, but we're going to end today with a little story about the Iowa Master Gardeners Growing Together Donation Gardening Grant. But thank you, and we hope to see you next week.
What are you making today?
We are making stir-fried zucchini and green beans.
One of our jobs in SNAP Education is to make healthy choices easier for Iowans who are experiencing poverty. ISU Extension and Outreach has delivered nutrition education for many years. Eating fruits and vegetables can be very expensive if you want to purchase fresh fruits and vegetables. And this project allowed us to make use of a great resource in the state of Iowa, which was the Master Gardeners, to grow produce for the purpose of donating to food pantries, which would allow those families to access fruits and vegetables and really carry out what they've learned in nutrition education.
So the Master Gardeners that are involved with the Demonstration Garden Project, they are helping to plant and also weed and primarily harvest produce that's going to food banks. And so what we're seeing is that a lot of the Master Gardener volunteers that are helping with this project are harvesting the produce, weighing it, and bringing it to the food banks. Food pantries aren't open every day of the week, and they also might not have storage to put things like produce in it. And so it's really helpful that we've got Master Gardener volunteers who are helping to make sure that the produce is being harvested at a time when it can be brought to a food pantry and served directly to customers fresh. We're really lucky to have Christine Reddick as a partner. She called food banks and reached out to them and said, we know that when people visit a food pantry that they want produce, but what produce is it that they want? So she brought us a list of all the different crops that people wanted to see.
That food pantry could help the gardeners choose what should be planted so that the items that are harvested are really what the pantry can use, what the clients enjoy, what they are able to store and distribute.
Home demonstration gardens have been located at Iowa State University research farms, and these home demonstration gardens were started as a way of showing homeowners what could be grown in their yard. And then with this added element of donating to food pantries, we're hoping that we inspire more people to donate to their local food banks and show that really if they only plant a couple extra zucchini plants, they could be harvesting pounds of food to be given to the local food bank for people in need. These people are volunteers and they care about their community and they want their community to be passionate about gardening, and what better way to get people to be interested in gardening than to remind them how delicious fresh produce is.
It has been fantastic to see the energy that Master Gardeners have for helping their neighbors who can benefit from fruits and vegetables that they grow, and the excitement that it's generated around the state for donation gardening and neighbors helping neighbors in Iowa.
The Master Gardener volunteers are learning so much by being able to grow food for their community. They're using their gardening skills to help their community and build food security, and what better way to be a volunteer in your community than to become a Master Gardener and grow food for your community.